So I want to back up a little bit because you mentioned this trip to Japan, and I've heard you talk a little bit about it. But what was it like living in Japan?
It was my first overseas experience. I just remember the first thing I remembered thinking when we got off the plane was the smells were different than what I was used to. And we traveled to Himeji, which is on the southern part of the Big Island, and stayed at Carolyn and Lyle Predmore with the American Baptist missionaries. And we stayed at their home with them, and then we did camps, and we did chapel services, and we helped with the churches that were the American Baptist churches that were there. And it was just a great experience, and we got very close we were there for a good portion of the summer. It was very eye-opening. One of the things I learned was that because a lot of the country is Buddhist or Shinto, their concept of sin is very different than our Western view. And we learned that a sinner from the Japanese culture and how they've been brought up is someone who does really, really, really bad things like murder or robbery, that kind of thing. But the general person who's a good person is not a sinner. And so when you share about Jesus died for our sins, they'll get that, but it doesn't apply to them because they're not sinners. And there's some other theological things that, you have to think differently and present things differently. When you have a culture that doesn't have concepts that we grew up with about salvation and redemption and confession, those kinds of things.
Did they have because I know a lot of Asian cultures have like an idea of like a corporate type of sin, or you shamed your family and things like that. Did you experience any of that in talking with them, or?
Not really.
Okay.
Not really. They were so hospitable, and it was an honor for them, for the different families that we stayed with, that we got to stay with them. I mean, it was a big deal.
Right.
And we got to experience lots of different things. Like one of the places we went to was to Hiroshima, to the Peace Palace and the museum there, which was very humbling to see that. And we got to visit some Buddhist temples and some Shinto shrines and ate all kinds of different kind of food. And some of the families who were very traditional would, feed us like sushi and fish and all this kind of stuff. And there were other ones that would feed us like roast beef and potatoes. I mean, depending on what they wanted to do for us.
Right.
But it was very, 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 very wonderful experience. And then, like I said, that was the first year. And then Pastor Bill organized a second time, which is the next year. Then I went back as one of the leaders, and it was a similar experience. And then for several years, the Area 3 of the American Baptist sent over teams to go to Japan. And then at one point, while I was still in southern Iowa, a team from Japan came over. And then we got to host them in my community, and it was really, really great. And of course, their English was pretty good, but when we were in Japan, many times we had an interpreter with us, which was our missionary couple who could speak fluent Japanese, and so that wasn't an issue. So that was real exciting, and that was partly the reason when I went to Central that I wanted part of my study to be on missions.